do the final thank you to everyone tomorrow, but this is, we can take a few tonight as well, so this is great. Okay, carry on. Dear Ajahn Brahmali, we are a product of our conditioning and we wish to change our ways to follow the Noble Eightfold Path. But our parents are a product of that conditioning and continue with that conditioning which steers us from the path. How can we proceed with both our parents and the path? Okay, so sometimes you just have to know what is important in life and you have to do things regardless of what other people around you do. And so you find some strength in having a Buddhist community around you, having a monastic community around you, and you do what is right. And you don't really have to convert your parents or convince them that Buddhism is the best or anything like that. In fact, you can keep it quite quiet what you do. You can live your life in your own way, yeah? And then it's amazing, just the fact that you live well and you do the right thing will have an incredible impact on people around you, especially maybe your parents, yeah? Because they will start to realize that this is doing you something good, and gradually it will open up their hearts to see what actually is going on. So just do the right thing, live in the right way, see the good in your parents. Yeah, there's always, parents are a mixed bag like everyone in the world. They're just people and they are going to have their positive sides and negative sides. See the good in them and know that your impact as their child is that simply by being the child you have a tremendous impact on your parents. It's very fascinating because in general, parents are closer to their children than the children are to the parents. Yeah, children mean a lot to parents, and it's not always reciprocated. And so, because of that, how you live your life will be very powerful for your parents. So, live it well. And be kind to your parents. See their good side. Forgive their weaknesses. And as you do that, and as you're able to support them and have a sense of metta and compassion for them, you will open their hearts. And when their hearts are open, they will be ready to see the world differently. And maybe they will be steered towards more Buddhist ways of thinking about things. I'm not sure exactly where you're coming from here, or what your background is, or what's going on with your parents. But I think that is really the general way of doing things. Just live well, do the right thing. Don't be too concerned about converting them or anything like that. I'm saying all of this because this has worked really well in my life, really, really well. It's kind of astonishing. I always tell the story of when I first started out. My parents were incredibly unhappy with me becoming a Buddhist monk. Yeah, my father said to me, "We didn't raise you to become a Buddhist monk." That's what he said. And I said, all right, what can you say? You can't really say much to that. Okay, it's probably true you didn't raise me for that because they didn't know anything about Buddhism. So how could they possibly raise me to become a monk? How many parents raise their kids to become Buddhist monks and nuns? Not very common anyway. But the thing is that if you do the right thing and you live in the right way, it really touches your parents deeply. And that's what happened to me. And my parents basically became Buddhists or very close to Buddhist anyway. My brother, when I go to Norway, he comes to my retreats. Sometimes he brings his son along, listen to what I have to do, what we're talking about. And it's just amazing. Some of my friends from university, they listen to my talks online. It's like you have an incredible impact on the world. And this is kind of extraordinary here. And especially on your own family. If you play your cards right, you're going to have a lot of success with your parents coming along. It's kind of extraordinary when you see that happen. But you have to be a bit stubborn here. You have to know that when you come across the right thing, like the Buddha's teaching, you know that you come across something good. And you don't give it up just because your parents disagree. That is kind of the wrong way of following your parents. Sometimes you need to stand your ground. This is one of those cases. So anyway, I wish you good luck, and hopefully these things will come right for you. Let's see what happens. All right. Dear Ajahn, with respect, please explain the difference between the following 3 suttas when it comes to learning mindfulness or breathing meditation. Majjhima Nikaya 118, mindfulness of breathing. Majjhima Nikaya 54.8, simile of the lamp. Majjhima Nikaya 10, Maha Satipatthana Sutta. Or are they all the same? With metta and gratitude for conducting another successful sutta retreat. So what is the difference between these suttas? And I would argue that there isn't really any difference between these suttas. Majjhima Nikaya 118 is the kind of the primary sutta on mindfulness of breathing. It is called the Anapanasati Sutta. Majjhima Nikaya 10 is the Satipatthana Sutta. It is all about mindfulness meditation. And they come from quite a little bit different angles, and they look quite different on the surface. But really, what they kind of get down to is the same thing. The Satipatthana Sutta is a bit more broad. It includes other things. So, for example, in the Satipatthana Sutta, they talk about the 31 parts of the body, right? So it's body contemplation. They talk about the 4 elements, which is also the kind of body contemplation. So they add that to get become a bit more neutral about the body, not be so attached to it. That's the kind of the idea. So it's a bit broader, but it comes back to the same thing. And the main way of doing Satipatthana practice is mindfulness of breathing. The other sutta we have been looking at now, which is Samyutta Nikaya 54.8, the simile of the lamp, is basically about anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, but with the added idea of the benefits of that. And as you can see, the benefits are everything on the Buddhist path come out of mindfulness of breathing here. So there are different angles on the same idea. And everything in Buddhism is really different angles on the same idea. It's kind of, one of the things about the suttas is that the idea of give you different angles is that when you only have one angle, it may not, you may not get what is going on. But then you see something from a slightly different angle, and it broadens your perspective. And sometimes you hear a Dhamma talk from one person, think, wow, that's what's going on. Now I really understand. It's like we have a certain way of relating to the world, and when that someone else is able to relate to the world in the same way, then we kind of get it sometimes. That's why these different angles can be useful. And that's why people have different teachers sometimes. Some teachers teach you and they relate to you, others don't. And this is how it is. Okay, so I hope that helps. Let us go on to the next one. This is amazing. Every time I come here, the water bottle is filled up, even though I drank only a little bit. It's amazing. People are very kind. And people doing all the little things. And then we have bare awareness here as well. Questions and answers on taming your wild mind. Jhana Grove copy. Okay, bare awareness. Okay. So, dear Ajahn Brahmali, one of the pillars, I think it is, pillars for successful meditation is the sense of joy here. You've told us to reflect on our virtues, our conduct, meditation, etc., to bring up the joy. Yes, I think I live a fairly good life and I'm blessed with a good kalyana mittas, but somehow I do not feel the joy here. What more can I do? Yes, it is. This is quite common not to feel the joy. It is not. It doesn't always happen naturally, and sometimes what you have to do is you have to live a good life for a long time. You have to build up these things again and again for a long time, and eventually it will come if you do it in the right way. And what you often have to do is you have to ask yourself about your weaknesses. What can you do better? Can you be more kind? Can you be more generous? Can you do things in a better way? Can you speak with a kind of idea of generosity here? And it is one of those beautiful things. As a monk, you are a recipient of a lot of kindness, and you see that there's a lot of kindness around. And I get very inspired when I see the kindness in people. People looking after you. You cough once, and people give you all these medicines, because of the tiniest little thing. And it's kind of beautiful. And yesterday someone came to my door and they said, oh, here is some honey for you. They just kind of come outside and giving me some honey. And this is one of the disciples who've been around for a long, long time. And initially I thought it was someone else, and it was kind of strange. And so these are the sort of things that happens to you all the time as a monk. There's a lot of goodness in the world, and you realize the importance of these things, to always be giving, always to be of service, always do the right thing, and with a smile, with a good attitude, with joy, giving with joy, understanding the importance of this, getting that joyous energy that wants to serve the whole world. There's something very beautiful about giving once you get into the right mood. Once you understand what it is, you just want to give, because you know that it is, it's just beautiful. It makes everyone happy, makes the recipient happy, makes you happy. It's a very powerful thing to do. And after a while you start to look for opportunities. And you start to, whenever you have an opportunity, you do something positive and try to share it with the world. And the more you do this, the more ability you will have you will get that joy in your meditation, in your daily life, because you are living in such a beautiful and pure way. So please make this kind of what your life is about, essentially. Kindness, caring, looking after, being generous in places you're not normally generous, to strangers, to whoever it is, to the animals in the forest. And then you are transforming something inside of you. I mentioned before, I see people in the monastery or people in the world who just exude this kind of this generosity. It's kind of coming out of them, and it's just so beautiful when you see that. And these are people who also do get very good meditation as a consequence. So this is a very large part of the secret for success on this path. This extreme, this kind of living a life that is pure and kind and caring in this way. And I guarantee you, the more you do this, and the more you are so consistently over long periods of time, things will change, and the mind will change. You will start to feel differently, and suddenly the joy will be there, coming out of the blue. And it will just happen. But don't be afraid of emotions. Don't be afraid of feelings. Have an emotional life, because emotions are really the thing that make meditation work. And deep meditations, well, they are emotional states. So when you need to kind of be an emotional kind of person. Without emotions, there isn't really any success on the Buddhist path. All right. Dear Ajahn, what a wonderful explanation of the wonderful sutta today. Much gratitude for taking the time and effort to teach us a great collection of suttas. A very big thank you to Lei Har, Christina and Nolia, and your tireless efforts. So there you are. So that is great. So, all right. Dear Ajahn, in the Upakilesa Sutta at one state is a mention that when the stillness is limitless, the vision is limitless. Can you explain it again? So the idea here is that a stillness or samadhi can be practiced in many ways, and sometimes samadhi can be practiced like in a visualization of the mind, and the mind kind of covering a certain area or something like that. So imagine your mind covering, Serpentine or Jhana Grove or something like that. And that has a boundary to it, and because it has a boundary, it will be called a limited kind of samadhi, a limited kind of stillness. It's just a perception that we give up, the idea of covering a certain area. But the ideal kind of samadhi, it doesn't have any limits to it. It is boundless. I think it's wrong to call it endless, because nothing is infinite, nothing goes on forever, but it doesn't have any boundaries to it. And this is kind of the idea of the unlimited samadhi. It just goes on, it kind of goes out to the whole universe without any limits. And I think this is kind of the idea here. So you develop this samadhi without limits. But really, you don't have to worry too much about it. What you really have to just do is to watch the breath and just allow the mind to develop by itself. You don't have to think in terms of areas. You just allow the mind to develop, and then it will happen. The deeper you go, the more expansive the mind becomes, as a consequence of the practice. And that is, and then eventually it becomes kind of limitless. The idea of the Brahma Viharas, of the Metta, the Karuna and Mudita, Upekkha, the four divine abidings, again, the idea is for them to be limitless. You don't kind of say, yeah, these people I have metta towards, but that person, no way I'm having metta towards that person. You don't think like that, right? You include everyone. And because you realize that everyone in this world is worthy of compassion, even the worst people, because they are not, when it comes down to the kind of the reality of things, the bad people, they are usually, again, trapped by something inside of them. They don't really understand what they're doing here. No one is going to be voluntarily bad, because only the person's life that you destroy the most is your own life. Who wants to destroy their own life? They don't understand what they're doing. That's why it is happening here. So everyone is worthy of compassion and kindness. And then you expand your mind without limits. Dear Ajahn, thank you for an epic retreat. Number one, why is gratitude not mentioned much in Buddhism? I can only remember seeing Katanyuta mentioned in the Mangala Sutta. Yeah, so Katanyuta and Katavedi are the two words for gratitude in the suttas. Katanyuta literally means knowing what has been done. Kata is done, and newt or new is like knowing. So it is knowing what has been done. Katavedi is the same kind of word. It is mentioned a few places in the suttas, not just in the Mangala Sutta, but it is not super duper common, I agree. But one of the beautiful things it does say in the suttas about Katanyuta and Katavedi is that only superior people have these feelings. So if you have a sense of gratitude, you're already quite a developed person according to the Buddhist suttas. This is quite rare in the world to have gratitude, rare in the world to have these positive feelings towards others who are kinder. And so so that is already a very positive sign if you can feel that. So it is definitely important, and it makes you in a kind of way a superior person if you have those feelings. 2, in the 4 right efforts, what is to be developed? I have heard teachers say it is the 7 enlightenment factors, especially sati. Do you agree? Thanks, and may you attain Nibbana in no long time. Okay. What is to be developed? Yes, it is actually defined in one place in the suttas as the 7 factors of awakening. That is actually the definitions. That is straight out of the suttas, and so I think that is correct. But really, it is any kind of positive quality of the mind that is to be developed, right? Whenever something kind of positive comes up, that is what is to be pursued and developed and cultivated. And of course, the 7 factors of awakening are a core part of that, because that leads you all the way to the end of the path. So that's obviously very significant. So it's just like the Dveda Vitaka Sutta, the 2 kinds of thought. You divide the world into bad thoughts and good thoughts. You overcome the bad ones and you avoid them from arising. And the good ones you develop, and once they develop, you maintain them. These are the 4 right efforts: avoiding, overcoming, developing, and maintaining are the 4 right efforts. All right. Okay. Gee, I wonder how do people have such beautiful handwriting? It's kind of amazing. Maybe this is the result of 9 days retreat, but I don't know. Dear Ajahn Brahmali, my deepest gratitude to you for your teachings of the Dhamma. I feel so blessed to be in your presence and receiving the Buddha's teaching from you through your wisdom and kindness. Thank you for becoming a monastic and a teacher of the Dharma, so that we may all benefit and have the opportunity to follow the Noble Eightfold Path. Please remain in Perth at Bodhinana so that we may continue to learn from you, inspired in your presence. Okay, well, that's wonderful. I'm glad that you have enjoyed it. And it is, I think, one of the jobs of a monastic is to pass on the word of the Buddha. This is the main job, in a sense, of a monastic, because we live this life as monastics because of the Buddha. If it hadn't been for the Buddha, you wouldn't be able to live as a monastic. So it is our duty to pass on the teachings of the Buddha. And this is one of the reasons why I really enjoy getting into the suttas. I feel like I'm kind of doing my duty as a monastic. So I'm very glad that you are benefiting and you are enjoying it. So that's great. Okay. Dear Ajahn, in the simile of the lamp, if from the third tetrad we are basically experiencing the mind, the body is fading away, why does it still say, I breathe in and I breathe out? Would we not be no longer able to feel the breath? Well, it is the third tetrad, the mind is what is prominent. Yeah, this is the main kind of thing, the nimittas and this sort of thing. But the breath is not entirely absent necessarily. It can still be there in the background, especially initially. And so the idea is that the breath is like the anchor of the meditation. If something goes wrong, if you're uncertain, if you're not sure whether it is developing properly, the breath is like there in the background to ground you and to anchor you in a certain way. And if things start to feel a bit funny, the breath is there to kind of help you keep your mind straight. And so I think this is why it is mentioned, all the way, even though it is fading a lot towards the end. Certainly, when you come to the very end and you are liberating and freeing the mind, that is when the breath disappears completely. But that is kind of beyond the Anapanasati Sutta. That's more like the result of the sutta, or the practice. So that's why the breath would be completely gone. But you are right, the main experience at this point would be the mind, and the breath is more like a subsidiary thing that is kind of there in the background. Dear Ajahn, why the Buddha prohibited monks to cut trees? Thank you for your wonderful teaching. Thank you to Leihar, Christina, Norlia for your wonderful help. Why did the Buddha prohibit monks from to cut trees? Well, this is what question that many people have asked over a long period of time, and it is very hard to be sure exactly what happened. According to the story in the Vinaya, every rule that the monk has to follow and the nun has to follow is preceded by a story, something that happened, because the Buddha always reacts to real events. He doesn't lay down a large number of laws and say, this is what you have to do. Monks and nuns do something wrong, and then the Buddha lays down a rule as a consequence of that. So this particular rule was laid down when the monk was building something, and he decided that he had to cut down a tree. And then there was a deva living in that tree. This is the story, the deva living in the tree. And this seems to be quite a common thing, the devas living in trees and plants and these kind of things. And so this deva said to the monk, oh, please don't cut down my tree, I'm living here. And the monk says, the monk didn't care, and he cut down the tree. And then the deva wanted to kill the monk, got really upset with this monk. And then she, I think it's a female deva, so she decides, okay, I'm not going to kill this monk. But she goes to the Buddha and says, oh, these monks are misbehaving. And then the Buddha lays down the rule that you shouldn't cut down trees. That's kind of interesting. And so the question is, why? So what exactly is going on here? And are trees sentient? And what is happening. So it's very hard to really know whether that story is to be taken literally and whether that is a kind of ultimately a reason not cutting down plants or whatever. It's very difficult to know exactly what is going on. But certainly it was the case at that time in ancient India that monastics should not destroy plants. That was kind of all the various religions had that kind of rule, it seems. It was generally accepted in India that plants had a sense faculty. The plants had the ability to experience the world. They had the sense of touch. And what is kind of fascinating is that there is a lot of modern research on plants. And there seems to be more and more evidence that plants actually have an experience of the world, an experience of reality. So maybe plants do have a rudimentary kind of consciousness. So maybe we are hurting plants to some extent by killing them. Well, it's all in the realm of speculation, because I don't think there is any final outcome of these experiments. But something like this seems to be what is going on. So this is the reason for the rule, why monastics don't cut down plants or destroy plants. Is it immoral to destroy plants? I would say that if it is bad, it is a very, very small bad. It probably isn't really bad at all. The Buddha doesn't say anywhere that this is immoral or bad karma or anything like that. Again, it is, remember here that intention is more important than anything else. So if you are in a monastery and you can maybe help, sometimes we do cut down plants in the monastery, we make fire breaks and these kind of things, and sometimes there are necessary things to be done. And if we do those things with good intentions, I would say it is good karma, not bad karma. Yeah, all right. Dear Ajahn, thank you for taking the time to explain the sutta so beautifully. Very inspiring as always. Meditation seems to be improving. I wish you well and all the very best. It is wonderful that your meditation is getting better. Thank you to Ajahn Brahm for providing us with a world-class retreat center. It is 14 years now, such a wonderful place to meditate. Yes, it's one of the things that were laid down in the constitution of the Buddhist Society of Western Australia. It actually says in there that the idea for the BSWA is to have a monks monastery, a nuns monastery, and a retreat center. So all of these things were kind of laid down from the very beginning. And indeed, Ajahn Brahm was the visionary behind the retreat center. And I remember very well, I was talking to Ajahn Brahm, we were discussing the retreat center, and he had made some initial calculations on the retreat center, and he said, yeah, it's going to be around $1 million to build a retreat center. I didn't believe a word of it. $1 million, it was ridiculous. And of course, it ended up becoming many, many, many times that expensive. But this is how meditation retreats get built. They get built because you always underestimate the difficulty. If you know how hard it is, you're never going to build it. But because you're underestimating, $1 million, we get someone to help us out, it's going to be easy. And then you do it. And then you kind of solve the problems on the way. And then it kind of turns out all right after all. But yes, it is a world-class meditation center, and it's kind of amazing that we have that here in Perth. Yeah, we have this here, and we have the support and everything to be able to do these kind of things. What a wonderful thing that is. And many of the supporters of the Buddhist Society and Ajahn Brahm, they also come from overseas. Yeah, we have people from overseas here on this retreat. And that's wonderful because we kind of work together, and it's kind of great to have people coming from overseas as well and making use of this. There are many places around the world that are not really conducive for meditation centers, like Singapore. Very difficult to have a meditation center, yeah, because it's just a city-state. There's nowhere to go, and it's too hot anyway. Yeah, it's just too sticky over there. Or Hong Kong, also very difficult. Yeah, these are almost like city-states. And so then we can work together. And Australia is an amazing place because there's so much land compared to the population. Western Australia is this enormous place. It is the size of Western Europe, and there's 2.5 million people living here or something. Yeah, so there's kind of nobody. There's like a how many? It's about 1 square kilometer per person or something like that. So there's kind of enough room to have a retreat center and all that. So we work together in this way, and what a wonderful thing that is that we can have this. And so yes, this comes largely from Ajahn Brahm's vision. Thank you to the fellow meditators for your support, and also to Lehar, Christina, Norlia for making it a success. So good. So lots of nice notes today. Dear Ajahn, when I got a bit of stillness in meditation, I see bright rings. At times they appear and then disappear. The middle of the ring is pitch black. Do I focus on the ring or the middle of the ring, or just carry on with mindfulness of the in-breath and out-breath? Thank you. You can experiment a little bit and see what happens. Sometimes these nimittas, they need to become fairly stable and strong before they actually is possible to focus on them. And so that is what you have to find out for yourself. Sometimes you might be better off staying with the breath, allowing it to strengthen, and maybe get the middle of the ring filled in, perhaps, or something like that. Alternatively, you can try to focus on the ring, not the middle of the ring, because if you focus on the blackness, it's not going to work. Focus on the brightness, wherever it might be, and then see what happens. And if it disappears, go back to the breath again. So experiment a little bit and see what kind of works for you. All right. Dear Ajahn, do you agree with Ajahn Brahm's translation of Vedana as experience? What is your preferred translation and why? The idea of Vedana as experience, to me the word experience means like everything. Yeah, it is like a very all-encompassing word, and it means everything that we are aware of. That's what experience is to me. But the most important part of experience is the feeling, because the feeling is what motivates us and drives us. Feeling is what makes life meaningful in any way at all. And so it is the core aspect of experience. And I think that may be the reason why Ajahn Brahm translates it as experience. So is it right? Well, the thing is that what does right mean? It depends on the context, depends on the situation. So it depends what is Ajahn Brahm trying to get out or say by translating in this way here. And if it is the idea that this is the core aspect of experience, or the critical part of experience, and maybe the thing in experience that we really need to understand, because this is where awakening can happen, if that is his point, then I think that is pretty much spot on. But on the other hand, I think it is to me, experience is much more. Experience tends to be everything in our awareness, and because of that, I think it can be misleading for some people if they get the wrong kind of idea out of it. So I would say, like with so many things, yes and no. Yeah, it is good, depending again on how you look at it. Yeah. All right. Dear Ajahn, thank you for the wisdom and the gentleness you have given explaining the sutras. The sutras this afternoon made me realize the transformative power of breath meditation. I felt renewed inspiration and hope that there is a practical means of calming the hardships and entanglements of life at every level. I am deeply grateful to have heard this sutta especially, with much metta and gratitude. Good. So this is great. So today's the questions are really nice and wonderful and easy. They are barely questions at all, in fact. So these are the kind of super question. Let's go for the next one. Dear Venerable Brahmali, my heartfelt gratitude for you taking the time to do this sutta retreat for us. You truly bring the Buddha's teaching to life. May your practice flourish as a result of your generosity. Good. So again, my favorite kind of question right there. So, all right. Dear Ajahn, can I become a nun when I turn 70? What is the answer to this? The answer to this is that don't wait till you become 70. I don't know how old you are now. If you are 25 now, don't... Presumably you mean that you're getting close to 70 already. That's probably what you mean. But if you are 25, then don't think like this. It's the wrong way to think. If you are on the other side of 60, the near side of 60, then this is the wrong way to think about things. The idea of becoming a nun or a monk really should do it as soon as possible. The younger you are, the more flexible you are, the more ability you have to practice this path fully. In the sutras, you always hear about the young people going forth. Yeah, the Buddha to be himself went forth when he was a black-haired young man in the prime of life. Yeah, that's when you ideally go forth. And so do it as soon as you possibly can. Can you do it at 70? You can, but it depends on the monastery. Most monasteries will have certain age limits, so they don't kind of end up becoming geriatric wards. Because if everyone is over 70, it kind of makes life difficult, right? And sometimes you get a lot of old people. It's not ideal in a monastery. So you need a balance in a monastery. So it depends on the monastery. But there's many things you can do without becoming a nun. You can stay at monasteries for long periods of time. You can live like a nun. Yeah? And there are lay people who live like nuns. There are some lay people who are more nuns than the nuns are nuns, and more monks than the laymen that are more monks than some of the monks I know. So you can still do a lot, even if you're not wearing brown robes and officially a fully ordained nun. So it is more about how you live, your attitude, what you give up in life, and how you practice your meditation. Come to the monastery, stay with us, stay at Jhana Grove. Make your lay life very simple and very beautiful and very inspiring. And as you do that, you become a nun at heart, even though externally you may not be regarded as a nun. There was a woman who is this extraordinary lady who just she has all the qualities of a nun, although she's not ordained. And I once called her a layperson, and she wasn't too happy with that. She was already kind of on the, and I think she was right. Yeah, she has much more the feeling of being a nun than being a layperson. And so we find that kind of middle way somewhere, and we can go a long way on the path. Whoa, okay. Dear Ajahn, thank you very much for the wonderful teachings of deep, profound Dhamma. You explain it very simple and interesting ways. Especially it helps a lot for my meditation. Thank you for putting your priceless time and efforts to spread the Dhamma and help people to come out from the darkness. That is exactly right. It's coming into the light out of the darkness. You and Ajahn Brahm's commitment, dedication, and generosity towards teaching Dhamma is extraordinary. I don't know enough words to thank you enough for that hard work, Ajahn. You are really the Buddha's true disciple. Okay, great. After all the years of hard work of learning, how we are here to pick the ripened mangoes without climbing the trees. How lucky we are to learn from you, Ajahn. I am truly fortunate to see and learn from simple, wise, humble, kind, compassionate monks like you. I don't know what good karma I have done in past life for that. Without you and Ajahn Brahm, I am pretty sure I can't see the Dhamma. From the power of generosity, may you always be blessed with the whole universal energy with the Buddha's fragrance, Ajahn. Much merit to you for your service to the world. May the triple gems bless you towards enlightenment within this life. May you be happy and healthy every day. Wow. And that is extraordinary. Okay. Well, what a wonderful thing. And it's very strange because when you sit from the other side, like where I sit from, all I see is this wonderful lay people, I see kind of this beautiful lay community who are so incredibly supportive and kind. And this is kind of the ideal way that things should be, when we kind of appreciate each other and we blend like milk and water and we think how fortunate I am, how super fortunate I am to have companions like this. And then we are doing the right thing from both sides, from the monastic community, from the lay community, working together and everyone enjoying the fruits and the benefit as a consequence. So thank you for those beautiful words and let us carry on. Thank you and much gratitude for all the inspirational teachings, dear Ajahn. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Heartfelt thank you for Lehar, Christina, Norlia and the fellow participants for making this retreat yet another awesome retreat in every possible way. I rejoice with all and wish we could have a second Sutta retreat for the year and keep the momentum going and help us with the practice. Please consider this kind request, Ajahn. May I wish Ajahn long life, good health and Nibbana in this very life. Much metta to all. Okay, we will. This request has been made before. It hasn't happened yet, but the future is uncertain. Dear Ajahn, thank you so much for the inspiring teachings and encouragement in the path. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thanks a lot for the wonderful ladies, Christina, Norlia and Lehar, for everything done during the 8 and 9 days. Question 1. What way the quality of emotions of an emotional person can be positively used in meditation? Okay, so if you are an emotional person, how can you use that in meditation? Well, the idea then is to bring out the good emotions, right? And to overcome the bad ones. And that is how you will use that. So you use your, if you find it easy to bring up emotions, it is really about reflecting in such a way that the good emotions come out. And that is really the way. So these are all the things that I've been talking about before, about appreciating the situation, having a sense of gratitude, rejoicing in the good friendship, understanding the amazing good fortune of having the Buddha as your teacher. I mean, it cannot be overemphasized that the Buddha is something extraordinary here. This is the pinnacle of human achievement in the world. The Buddha, from a Buddhist point of view, there's nothing higher than the Buddha. There's no gods, anything like that, higher than the Buddha. The Buddha is the top, the deepest wisdom that is possible. And that is your teacher. Isn't that kind of extraordinary? Here is someone who has understood the human condition fully and completely in the breadth and depth and everything. Someone who understands what real happiness and suffering is. Someone who can give you the highest gift in the world. There's no higher gift than to be given the supreme happiness. This is what the Buddha can give you. This is the teacher you have. And so getting into this idea, feeling for what the Buddha is, and then bowing down, and if you are an emotional person, you can bow down and you can feel maybe the emotions just by bowing down to the Buddha, and maybe feel that you're even tearing up, because the Buddha is your teacher. And so it is all about reflecting in this way, reflecting about your kindness, the way you live your life, understanding that this has a tremendous impact on the world around you. When we live with kindness, sometimes we don't understand the impact it has on the world around us. Often has a ripple effect. You touch someone else and they touch someone in return because they get inspired by living in a good way. This is one of the things I love about teaching the Dhamma and then hearing other people getting inspired to be kind. And then they pass that on. It's a wonderful thing when that happens. And I, in turn, was inspired by Ajahn Brahm, by the Buddha, by whatever. We all pass it on from someone else and it ripples out into the world. And we have no idea sometimes of the profound effect that we have on society and people around us. Just one kind word, just a kind thought, a kind action has these kind of effects on people around us. Remember that when you live according to the 5 precepts, you are taking away so much fear and anxiety in people around you. They know they can trust you. You are trustworthy. You're not going to rip them off or do anything bad. You're going to tell the truth. In fact, you're going to use good speech in general. And all of these ideas gradually make you build up some good feelings inside of you. And this is kind of what this is all about. So learn to bring out those good feelings by thinking in the right way. And then don't bring up the bad feelings, the bad emotions, by avoiding the wrong kind of thoughts. May all the merits we have gained help you and all of us to see the Dhamma in this very life. Excellent. All right. So we are coming to the end, which is timing is very good. So, dear Ajahn, can you please tell us about your recent trip to the USA? Did you meet any like-minded Sangha? What's the juju like over there? As hot as Perth, thanks. I don't know. It was nice to travel to the US. It's kind of strange. Sometimes you have all of these prejudices about countries, and you have, like, the US is probably one of the countries that people have prejudices about because it looms so large in your consciousness. You always hear about the US. But of course, when you go there, it's just like everywhere else. It's pretty boring, pretty disappointing, actually. It's like... people are people, and especially as a Buddhist monk, you meet a lot of really kind people. And the US was no different. People were really kind and really friendly. And Americans are a bit more outgoing than most people, which is kind of cool, So you go down the street and people say hello to you just walking down the street. It doesn't happen in most countries, but it happens in the US. And so after a while, I started doing the same, because you become like affected by the surroundings, you get conditioned. So I started saying hi to people in the street, yeah, and they said hi, hello back, you know, and it's really kind of, you become American very quickly. Once you, it's kind of fascinating to see that, how conditioned you are. But it's interesting. One of the things that is always interesting about traveling overseas is that every culture, every country had to deal with the Dhamma in their own way, so you get slightly new angles on the Dhamma, yeah, and how they kind of grapple with the Dhamma over there, which is always fascinating, and it's always interesting. And one of the things that they were asked me to talk about was the constitutional freedoms versus Buddhist freedom. And constitutional freedoms in the US, things like freedom of speech and all that kind of, but it's also freedom to carry arms, right? And these are considered very important over there, and versus then the freedom of Buddhism. And to me, I wonder whether the freedom to carry arms really is a freedom at all, or whether it's more like a kind of imprisonment. If you carry arms, how does that make you feel? I don't know, I wouldn't want to carry arms. I think that would make me feel scared. Just the idea of carrying a gun would kind of be negative. So sometimes the idea of freedom is very different. And sometimes the worldly freedoms can imprison your mind. And the freedom, of course, that really matters is the freedom of the mind, that opens up the mind. That's where you want to go. But so the US was kind of, it was... okay, it was kind of much. It's like everywhere really, and not such a big deal. It was quite. I was in many places. I started out in San Francisco, so Silicon Valley and all of that, and then I went to Minneapolis, where it was extremely cold, minus 26 degrees, ridiculously cold when I was there. Then I went to Chicago. It was nice. And I went to New York. So I was in New York City for a short while in a monastery, then I went to Boston finally too. So I went kind of some of the biggest cities in the US and saw Buddhism over there, and Anyway, so there you are. There's not all that much to be said, because again, it's just Buddhism. That's really what it is. And I probably will have to go to the US again, because once you go, you tend to get invited again. So we'll see what the future brings. Dear Ajahn, the training of the great masters, even Ajahn Brahm, were quite rigorous. Even he recommended that you sit more when you asked him for recommendations to overcome your meditation challenges. Yet you discussed that the mind has its own rhythm, and to listen to follow the rhythm versus forcing it. Please elaborate on the right balance between needing to put more effort to overcome the mind's bad habits, laziness, wanting more comfort, and allowing the natural flow of the mind's energy. Thank you for all your stupendous and super out of this earthly realm teachings. Okay. Every meditation is kind of different, and it's sometimes very hard to kind of make general recommendations about what is right. It's almost as if you have to look a little bit at what's happening in a particular meditation. Sometimes the meditation happens almost automatically, and that's when you kind of feel a rhythm, you feel it goes by itself, it goes according to a nice kind of, and you come out, and then kind of it's over, and then you are finished. At other times it may be more of a struggle. You may have to struggle more with kind of overcoming the defilements, and it takes time for the mind to settle down. And sometimes just the idea of waiting and waiting and waiting, if you do it in the right way, if you wait in the present without looking to the future, after a while the defilements do start to disappear, precisely because you're waiting in the right way. It may not be a kind of a precise rhythm, as when the meditation goes well, but there is something happening over time if you get it right. But that really depends on getting it right. It depends on the ability to be mindful. It depends on the ability to sit back and not having too much pain in the body and having too many irritations going on. So it depends on your ability to deal with the mind in the right way. And for some people, sitting long periods of time is not going to work. What you have to do is you have to look at what's happening within you. And if your mind is leaning in the right direction, gradually becoming purified, sit longer. But if things are not working, there is no point in sitting longer just for the sake of sitting longer. So it is all comes down to, does it work or not? That is the critical thing here. And so that is what you should ask yourself. And that is why there is no answer to the right posture. That is why there is no answer to the right length of time to sit. That is why there is no answer to any of these questions, because it is very individual, and it really comes down to what works, what is possible, what can you do. A little bit of endurance is necessary here, because the body is full of pains. Yeah, that's kind of the nature of the body. A little bit of endurance is required, but not too much endurance. And then you see if the mind is leaning in the right direction. Then you know you're on the right track. All right. Okay, not a question, but maybe of help. Someone was asking about the sutta study ongoing after the retreat. A suggestion, Sutta.net has a Reading Faithfully program on offer. You sign up and get a daily scripture reading in your inbox. There's a monthly theme to the readings. Just a note, if you use an Apple device, it may direct the emails initially to the junk as it comes from the mailing list. So Sutta.net has all kinds of things. So Reading Faithfully program is on offer. So that is one possibility here. Okay, so thank you for that. And then we have the last question for today. And it goes as follows. What can you do at the time of death, if known, e.g. in a hospice, to transfer the consciousness to a higher realm? I have heard there are methods in Tibetan Buddhism, or what can I do to help my loved ones? All right, so the answer to that is that at the time of your death, do not try any kind of fancy tricks to transfer your consciousness to the higher realm or whatever, because chances are you will mess it up and you end up in a lower realm instead. That's kind of what often happens. The point is that there is a natural way for the rebirth process to happen, and it happens according to your karma, how you have lived your life. So your focus should just be on living your life in a good way. That should be the focus. And if you live your life in the right way, then things will take care of themselves on your deathbed. If you try to do something fancy, you can imagine you're on your deathbed and you try to kind of get your mind to do the right thing. It's just not going to work. It's going to be very difficult. And in any case, usually it is a complete waste of time, because you don't actually get reborn on your deathbed. You get reborn sometime later. In the meantime, you go to the intermediate existence and you hang out there for a while. So what you do on the deathbed may have absolutely nothing to do with where you get reborn anyway. So all of that is just throw it out. It's completely, it doesn't really make any difference. Live your life well. That is what will determine your rebirth, not what you do at the time of your death. At your time of death, relax, enjoy the process. People who have lived well, who have a good mind, they will enjoy the dying process. And the reason you will enjoy it is because usually when people die, the body is already falling apart. Maybe you have cancer, maybe everything is going wrong, maybe you have been in an accident. The body is often not very nice when we die. And so it is often a sense of relief to get rid of the body. And so it can be a very beautiful process. One of the things that they say in the hospitals, in geriatric wards and these kind of things, is that many people who have Alzheimer's or dementia, when they die, they get released of that dementia towards the very end. Suddenly they recognize people again. Oh, son, daughter, wow, I haven't seen you for 20 years, what happened? And this is kind of what dementia does to you. But then because of the dying process, because you're letting go of the body, the mind comes back into action again, and it starts to recognize people, because the body is what is sick. The mind is still perfectly okay behind that sick body. So you get released and things come back to normal again. And so it is kind of a relief sometimes to die, because the body has had it. The body is no longer functioning properly. So the dying process, just enjoy. Live, enjoy, and enjoy the fruits of your good actions and your good life. And right now, just remembering that the dying process is going to happen is enough to help you now also becoming more kind, because you know that you want to have that kind of mental state when you die. This is one of the benefits of doing death contemplation. It makes you a better person if you do death contemplation. This is one of the aspects of it. What about your loved ones? What can you do to help them? And usually you want people to die in a peaceful way. It's nice to be peaceful when you die. So when you have someone die, then go to them and talk to them and tell them about their good qualities and about the things that you really appreciate about them, and what a wonderful thing it was to have them as a friend or a family member or a father or a mother or whatever it is. And usually that goes a long way to lift the person's spirit, and then they can have a better death as a consequence. At least they have a more peaceful death as a consequence. So something like that. All right, it is very good timing, 8:30, just there on the second, on the dot. So that was exactly what we were aiming for, so that's wonderful. So that is all for this evening, and the retreat isn't finished. Please keep on enjoying it. One more night, beautiful night's rest here at the peaceful Jhana Grove. We'll do some bit more meditation tomorrow morning. We'll see you again at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, or please start whenever you like, and then we will carry on for the last few hours of the retreat. So let's do the Arahang Samma Sambuddha for the last time. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami